Thank you, friend. Shabbat Shalom. Greetings to you all. As usual, it is a pleasure to see you. It is always a pleasure to see you all. Now, this is one of those special years. Now, every year that we get to spend some time together is special, but this year's extra special. And I do want to thank you all for your comments, your listening, your watching. I rely on your feedback to make these better, and I'm honored and humbled by your support. Now, today is the 20th of March. My friends, that of course is the first day of spring. It is the spring equinox. Now, equinox is derived from two Latin words, equus, which is equal, and nox, which is night. And so that tells us there's about the same amount of day as night. Now, we have two of them in a year. This one and the one in September. The fact they represent balance and choice is a topic for another day. And friends, they mark the two most important times in the Hebrew calendar. The one in September, of course, represents what we now call Rosh Hashanah. And this one in March is what I referred to last week as the beginning of the year, the first of the 12 days of creation, the first day of spring, and the countdown to the holiest day in the Torah, Passover. And the reason this one is so special is because this year it does mark all those things. Now, quite often, due to the lunar cycle that the calendar follows, the dates just don't all line up so nicely. This year the stars are aligned and we have the spring equinox as the first day of the Hebrew calendar. So happy biblical New Year, my friends. For many, this is the true New Year's. Now, as it says in Exodus 12:1, this month shall be to you the head of the months. To you it shall be the first of the months of the year. And that's something that makes Rosh Hashanah very confusing for people. But that's another story, and that is actually something you may read about on Passover. Now, last week, we learned that the tabernacle was commemorated on this day. So take a moment, my friends, and do that. And we do it in our hearts. So just give a little thanks that you get to carry such a fantastic and holy place with you for you to go to whenever you want, whenever you need, wherever you are. No one can take away what we carry in our hearts. So celebrate the new year. Celebrate the tabernacle. Celebrate spring. Life comes back. The long winter, hopefully, is over, although they are talking about snow on the first day of spring. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I say it's all right. Now, today also marks Nowruz, the Persian New Year, a holy day for the Zoroastrians, considered one of the oldest of the monotheistic religions. And we saw that Esther's husband was a Zoroastrian. And for all you members of the Baha'i faith, Happy New Year. A special birthday greeting goes out to Sharon. I hope you have a birthday to remember. I'll remember you when I've forgotten all the rest. You to me were true. You to me were the best. The first day of the year, in the first year of creation, would have been what we refer to as the Big Bang. Not the Big Bang Theory, just the Big Bang. And what the ancients and then the Kabbalists referred to as the lightning bolt of creation. Big Bang, lightning bolt of creation. Same thing, just slightly different descriptive words. And so, my friends, mystical Judaism teaches us that each of the next 12 days, a day for each month, represents the year ahead, in which we can create the world and the year we want to have. You are an artist looking at a blank canvas. You are free to imprint your will on the universe. Use it wisely. Do you want to fight? Do you want to be angry, sad, hateful, fearful? What kind of year do you want? Well, think about it and imprint on the universe what you want. Imprint a sense of security, goodwill, love, creativity, harmonious relationships, time for family, friendship, knowledge, travel, hopes, dreams, and wishes. On these 12 days, imprint what you want and have the year and the life that you want. You deserve it. If you are in the slightest way dissatisfied with your life, if you have looked at the mirror of self and did not love what you glimpsed, you're invited to use these 12 days to change it. And friends, it is an annual gift. How cool is that? If you don't do it this year, do it next year. You constantly get to do this. As Major Tom sang, changes, turn and face the strange, changes. Don't want to be a richer man. Just going to have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't trace time. Well, we have turned the page and we are beginning a new book. The book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, the book of priestly rules. You will see every manner of offering described and the process of priestly ordination begin to unfold. As we talked about before, my friends, the names of the 5 books of Moses are different in Hebrew than in English. The Hebrew follows the first word of the book in the section, while the English follows the theme. This book only hints at the list of rules coming, but the English name Leviticus tells us it is focused on priestly rules. The Levite tribe, and if the people could read, there would have been signs everywhere. Do not enter, do not sin, do not err, atone, forgive. The new formula and the Lord called to Moses takes effect. And friends, this phrase introduces most things in this book, including just about all the rules and regulations. This parsha marks the beginning of the solidification, the formation of a nation and an identity. The law is a significant study in itself, but it takes on a very special role here because this book is concerned with the place the laws take in forming a nation. And as such, they're not just listed, but they are intricately woven into the narration between God and Moses. The story's not about Moses anymore. It's about the law. And there's never a question about getting to know God. It's a given. God is known to all. Now, on his conquest of Parthia, Julius Caesar is quoted as having said, Vene vidi vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. And we all learned that when we were in school. And now for these people at the mountain of God, they can all say, Nos venit, audivimus, nos testis. We came, we heard, we witnessed. Never before and never again would a multitude be witness to God. The great epiphany behind us. And yet it will be presented again to a new generation as if they were there. And so we are camped at the foot of God's mountain. Vayikra, and he called. Now, unlike Genesis and Exodus, the entire book of Leviticus is set in one place at the foot of Mount Sinai. In Exodus, the universe, the land, waters, and sky are in complete disarray. Following that turmoil, Leviticus is concerned with orderliness, with arrangement. The story stops being about Moses. And even though the laws are still conveyed through him, the book is about the laws themselves and their revelation to the people. The only stories are about Aaron and his sons. And what's more, Leviticus does not develop personalities. We get to know nothing about anybody in this book. It is about institutions, not individuals. Now, Leviticus ultimately does teach us that there's a way to behave in morality, in ethics, but more importantly, because this is what this book is about, in ritual. Now, for many, thankfully, Leviticus is the shortest of the 5 books that make up the Torah. And it sits squarely right in the middle. And it's often quite unsettling to modern readers. Now, it lies between the completion of the tabernacle after the Sinai Epiphany in Exodus and the wilderness wanderings in Numbers that are coming up. And so this long moment of stasis deals with matters of ritual. Now, odder still, most of the laws are focused on topics that may seem much less than urgent to audiences not part of the ancient world in which they were framed. See, the central concern of the book is the conduct of the cult, with elaborate stipulation of how the sacrificial animals are to be butchered, what parts of them are to be burned on the altar, and how their blood is to be ritually sprinkled or daubed on various extremities of the celebrant. Purification is a paramount consideration in all of this. And the legislation lays out elaborate procedures for cleansing both persons and substances of a rich variety of impurities. The emphasis on the regimen of sacrifices must have had a kind of historical expressiveness and even an ideological urgency for them. The temple, with all its splendid furnishings and accoutrements, had been destroyed by the Babylonians, and much of the Jewish population had been driven into exile, like the population today. So these intricate legal instructions about ritual conduct within the sacred space of the tabernacle were a means of reinstating the vanished temple as a fact of the imagination and a blueprint for future restoration. And everything you're going to read here is about what took place in the tabernacle, which doesn't exist anymore. And friends, this message was strongly carried forward into post-biblical Judaism. In fact, 2 whole tractates of the Talmud, based on Leviticus, would be devoted to the laws of the cult and would remain the object of intensive study, such that at least by the later Middle Ages, small Jewish boys were introduced to the Torah not through the great story of creation and the absorbing tales of the patriarchs in Genesis, but through Leviticus. In Rashi's formulation of the academic slogan, "Let the pure ones come and study laws of purity." Boring. Friends, this is where you begin to lose the audience. Do not get lost in the rituals described in this book. View it instead as a giant metaphor or allegory. Reality is conceived as an elaborate system of correspondences. Correspondences between Sinai and the cosmos on the one hand, and the tabernacle on the other. And between all 3 of these and the body segments of the sacrificial animals. And also note, there is a single verb that focuses the major theme of Leviticus: divides. In Hebrew, it is hivdil. That, my friends, is the verb from the beginning of the story of creation. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God made the vault and divided the water beneath the vault from the water above the vault. In this vision of cosmogony, the condition before the world was formed was a chaotic interplay of contrasting elements, confusion, waste. What enables existence and provides a framework for the development of human nature and human civilization is the process of separation, of division and insulation. Light from darkness, day from night, upper waters from lower waters, dry land from lower waters. That same process is repeatedly manifested in the ritual, sexual, and dietary laws that you're going to find in Leviticus. Now, just as one has to set apart permissible sexual partners from forbidden ones, mothers, aunts, sisters, daughters, and every kind of animal, one must set apart what may be eaten in the great breeding of living creatures from what may not be eaten. Reptiles, amphibians, birds of prey, pigs, bats, cats, rats. In its acceptance of these categorical divisions, Israel now sets itself apart from other peoples and becomes holy like God, dividing, setting apart, erecting barriers to access. These are the notions that permeate all the regulations here about the tabernacle, the Mishkan, God's terrestrial dwelling place, which we know now is in our heart. We are constantly reminded that ordinary Israelites are to keep their distance from the sacred space of the sanctuary. Not even unauthorized persons may come forward. And in these contexts, unauthorized means encroach upon. Even the priest must follow a careful regimen of dress and cleansing and abstention from alcohol before entering the sanctuary. And the inner sanctum, conceived as that material point of linkage, the nexus between God and the world, can be entered only by the high priest on the Day of Atonement after meticulous ritual preparation. And friends, you'll notice the chief instruments for protecting the separation of the spheres of creation are the everyday items of fire, blood, oil, and water. And these 4 substances come from 4 different realms of existence. You've already seen that God reveals his commandments in an awesome pyrotechnic display. He manifests his presence before the people in a pillar of fire by night and cloud by day. He is appropriately worshipped through burnt offerings consumed by fire and by other sacrifices that are turned to smoke. Fire is linked with the divine. Blood, as Leviticus emphatically reminds us, is the very life, nephesh, of the living animal. As such, it must not be consumed as food, but in ritual procedure it has a cleansing virtue and is to be sprinkled, cast, or smeared in designated ways during the sanctuary rite in order to effect purgation. Blood, the life force, courses through the veins of living creatures, animal and human. Oil, specifically olive oil, is a product of agriculture, of the land. And it has, by contrast, an association with the everyday and with the social and political realms of ancient culture. A traveler, for example, after washing away the dust of the road, would rub himself with oil. And of course, oil is the substance of dedication, poured on the head for kings as well as for priests. It is chiefly the celebratory function of oil that is carried over into its very uses in the cult. And of course, the effectiveness of water as a purifying agent is universal. And water recalls for us the primordial realm that must be set apart from dry land so that the world may come into existence. Friends, this book is about sacrifice. And it has been 2,000 years since the Second Jerusalem Temple was destroyed and sacrifices ended in Judaism. In addition, the two largest religions, Christianity and Islam, do not perform sacrifices. And so it has been so long since we've seen or done this that most people are unclear about what sacrifice was. Now, frequently people imagine that it meant that biblical man regularly destroyed much of their livestock for no reason. And I understand why people see it that way, but this is wrong. You see, the purpose of sacrifice, and therefore so much of this book, was to recognize that an animal's life was sacred. Most sacrificed animals are eaten by the person who brings the animal to the altar. That is when you would eat meat, when you were making a sacrifice. There's also a second group of sacrifices, which involve the ritual slaughter of an animal that is not for consumption by that person. Instead, this is the meat that's given to the priests, and the priests eat it or it's entirely burnt. This book presents a system that provides for guilt, but it also provides a mechanism for penance and forgiveness. Sacrifice relates to guilt and expiation, the two key concepts which arrive at Yom Kippur. And the system of guilt provides the mechanism for forgiveness, the most important gift of all. Yet still people hold on to guilt for years when they could have exercised the forgiveness mechanism. You see, friends, sacrifice is the only mechanism for forgiveness in the book of Leviticus. The words repentance, mercy, grace, and kindness do not exist. This is a book of rules, of laws, not of emotion. The entire book is a book of rules regarding sacrifice. You do something wrong, you make a sacrifice, you get forgiveness. End of story. But friends, it's not just cut and dried. See, people do make mistakes. Humans make mistakes. And mistakes still require atonement. People feel guilty when they do harm, even if they meant no harm. And so sacrifice provides a mechanism for purging the guilt and putting the act in the past. Now, in the absence of sacrifice, other means of atonement have risen in importance. Notably, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, has become the most sacred and widely observed holy day. Whereas in the Torah, as I have said, Passover stands out as the first and foremost of the holy days. And it, my friends, is but 2 weeks away. This book of the Torah was written with sacrifice in mind, something which does not exist anymore. So much of what you're going to read will have much less meaning to you. Do not get lost in it. Do not worry about knowing how to conduct a proper sacrifice. I am sure your parents have taught you that already. After all, they sacrificed everything for you, and they will tell you that over and over and over again. Do not worry either if you get bored. This is the most we will talk about sacrifice for weeks to come. Think instead of the metaphor for what it represents. Friends, honor your tabernacle, your dwelling place of God. Honor the first of the year. Honor the spring. It is birth. It is newness. It is opportunity. Create the life you want to have and get ready for the festival of flatbread. Free yourselves from fear. Love y'all, live free, be free, and honor your freedom. Be well, be happy, and be blessed. Share and honor the light and all who live in the light and continue to shine. Continue to send everyone you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone and into terror and hatred. And remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together. We celebrate each other. We love each other. And as we were told in 1969 by Peter Townsend, in what many believe was the first rock opera, I'm free. I'm free, and freedom tastes of reality. I'm free, and I'm waiting for you to follow me. Follow your freedom, my friends. Thank you all. Love you. See you all next time. Have a fantastic year. Bless you all. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining me. Next week we'll talk about Passover. Be well.